Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome in. Welcome in. Sunday Scan is now live. So what I want to do this evening, guys, is I want to actually walk you through some of the watch list items that I'm going to be looking at this week. I haven't came into the week prepared with any names. What I'd like to do is actually come in here and kind of walk you guys through my process of how I'm going to be finding different names that we can trade this week. As you guys know, I'm a trend trader. So what it comes down to at the end of the day is just looking for the smoothest names to trade. And so what I like to do on Sundays is kind of look and get a gauge and see where the market's at overall compared to historical levels of where we're at, where we've been. Take that and then hopefully have some actionable levels to play going into the week, assuming that we break out of certain levels, certain key pivot spots. So first thing that I like to do is just go ahead and get started, kind of looking at the larger time frame pictures, right? So I like to look at SPY, QQQ, and just look to see where we're at on larger time frames, right? So on the weekly here, we can see that, very, very strong weekly candle, probably our strongest weekly candle that we've seen, really since probably the week of March 17th. So mid-March, this was the strongest week that we kind of saw on QQQ, relatively speaking, and probably, same thing on SPY. We just very, very strong candle all around. We had a 5%, almost 6% week on SPY, and a 6.5% week on QQQ on NASDAQ Tech. So really, really strong week. I'm not sure that we're going to get continuation, but if we were looking at this on a 5-minute chart, we would say that this is a pretty bullish engulfing candle here from a candlestick price action perspective. So, very, very strong candle pattern here. And so what I'd look for is continuation up on the weekly time frame, looking for a move up to 383 on QQQ, and then on SPY, looking for a move up to 456, obviously. Now, if we go down in the daily, what I like to do is kind of go down here, time frame by time frame and just look at things at different levels. And so from here, what I'd like to look at on SPY, you guys can see how many times we kind of rejected this area in October, right? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row here that we really rejected this 437, 438 area. Whatever you'd like to call this area here. But I think if we can break out over this area, we're going to make this move up into that 441, 442 area on SPY. And so this is, kind of watching this area right here, probably this 441.60, 441.60, 441.70. Let me go into the larger chart here for you guys since we're looking at just SPY now. Then we'll take a quick peek at QQQ, go to my daily, turn off my, there we go. So as you guys can see here, right, like up into this area right here is probably what I'm going to be looking at. 440, there we go. 441.58, 441.60, somewhere in there. But we can see here, we held it right here, right? We rejected it here, held it here, rejected here. So this area, if we can break the key for me is going to be a break of 437, 438. Because you can see, how we rejected this area before. This is we're coming back up into this area. And we've also had, gap up after gap up after gap up last week. At some point, we probably are going to see some consolidation. And if I had to guess, it's probably going to be right back here at this 437, 438 levels where we're going to consolidate, right? We made this big push up here. We consolidated, then we fell back down. So we made this push up again. We'll probably consolidate a little bit. And then when we break out, I'm going to be looking for that big move up into 442 as my first target, and then 445 as the second target. Stretch target all the way up here, obviously, is going to be that 450, psych level, 451 area. And then if we do break above that, we have the potential here to make this move back into that 457 area. But on the daily time frame, looking at this chart here, if I were to throw my levels on and throw kind of this trend line on here on the daily time frame, we can kind of see that trend line. If it's going to hit it, it's going to be up in here, up in this area. So I could see a scenario in which we come up here, we consolidate, and then we break out of this daily trend line and go up into that 444, 450 area. on SPY. So that's what I'm going to be looking at on SPY. But overall, very, very strong week last week. We do have earnings this week. Earnings season is not over. Looking at the calendar, just a few names to point out to you guys that I really like this week. We've got names like Dish. We've got names like Uber. We've got names like Rivian on Tuesday after close. We got UPST after close on Tuesday as well. Roblox on Wednesday before open. We have AMC Wednesday after close. Disney Wednesday after close. Twilio. We've got Mara earnings Wednesday after close as well. Affirm. So a lot of growth names this week. It seems like we've got Lee this week as well, a China name, EV name. Plug on Thursday after close. Unity, TDD, the Trade Desk. So a lot of growth names this week. This is kind of like the growth names, if you will, this week. So that's what I'll be watching in terms of those earnings. So we will have an opportunity for some potential flushes as well. And keep in mind, guys, last week we saw a lot of those growth names explode out of earnings, right? We talk about names like Shop, talk about names like Etsy. A lot of those names, had some really, really big moves out of Roku, another one, really, really big moves out of their earnings reports. And so I would anticipate that a lot of these names are going to do the exact same thing this week, which is going to be interesting to see everything play out. We also have Datadog this week as well. So some software and some growth names this week. So now that's what that looks like, what I'd like to do, I know that there was some oil news out of Saudi Arabia this weekend. What I want to do is focus in on XLE as the first name that I'm going to look at. And then, as you guys know, the way I do my watch list is I'll look at kind of the ETFs, and then I'll go into the, 2 or 3 names that I like to trade, on these ETFs, if you will, to kind of give myself a sense of where we're at and where we could potentially head to on these individual names. So here's XLE. XLE is consolidating a little bit here. Seemingly we've been stuck, right? We could probably add a key level here just based on recent price action here, where we've kind of had multiple taps down into this 84.50 level. Once we got over it, we've held it, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. If we break this level, potential for a nice move back down into the low 80s on XLE. But right now we are holding this area, and you can see we've got overhead resistance, obviously a key level up here at 89.28. And then we've got, 92.35 as that upside area. So once we pick a direction here, we could see some nice moves, but I think we might get a gap up tomorrow based on the headlines that were coming out in terms of Saudi Arabia and the oil news that came out. So when I look at XLE, I like to look at 3 names when it comes to oil and energy, right? So I like to look at Oxy as my first one, CVX, and XOM. So let's start with Oxy, and let's just see what the chart looks like on the daily time frame, and then we'll dissect it from here. So essentially what we have, right? We've got some consolidation on the daily, right? We're stuck here on the daily. We can see that we've got some consolidation down here. So when I see that we've got consolidation, when I mean consolidation, we've been trading between 61.14 all the way up here at like 63.56, right? So on the daily time frame. So what I like to do from here is actually go down into the hourly time frame, turn off my extended hours, and then take a look at the chart and see like, okay, what do we have? What does this look like now? Does this look like something that I could potentially, trade or potentially play? Take this guy off, right? And so what do we have now on Oxy, right? Well, we've still got this trend line. All right, still a trend line that we're potentially playing. Potentially we've broken out of it, right? Essentially, if we're going to say, rejection, trend line tap, breakout, come down, hold it, looking for a, move out of that. Some might call this a cup and a handle. I don't like to get too fancy with it. So essentially what I'm going to say here is that we're still in some type of consolidation. And, theoretically we could add something like this here, right? Where we could just say, we could take this guy off and just say, as long as we keep this hourly trend up, we break out over this level here, we've got a chance to get 64.02. But right now, nothing really too actionable for me. I think if we break this 64 level, 66 is going to be in play, 67 potentially in play this week if oil is going to trend to the upside. We'll have to see what happens. So now from here, what I like to do is go back to the daily time frame. So on Oxy, not really anything that like is setting up for tomorrow morning for me to say, hey, this is a perfect consolidation pattern that we can play. We do have an inside bar. Essentially, the candle Friday closed within the range of Thursday. So see what happens there. But now let's go into CVX and see what the CVX daily looks like. Okay, much more consolidation on CVX after their earnings report where they fell down here. And let's go ahead and put a level here as well, because we seemingly held this level right here. This 144 area on CVX. I don't know if we held it in the past or yeah, no, not really too clean there, but we held it recently, right? So this is what I'm concerned with right here. So if I go into the hourly time frame, potentially we could make a case that, we are trading within, range here as well, even though, again, not my favorite setup, but we are in horizontal range, right? We're stuck between 144 and 140, let's call it 149, right? So $5 worth of range. It's a little bit more range than what I like to see typically, on a name that's at $144 per share. So from here, I might look to see, do we have something, some type of pattern here that we can play, and not really, right? There's not it personally for me, there's not really a setup here that I see. Maybe this is a little bit cleaner from a consolidation standpoint. Obviously we're getting a little bit tighter here. So a breakdown with the target of 144, or a break up with a target up here to fill this gap back up. And I'll just throw this level up here, right? So break out of this pattern for a chance to run back up to that post earnings gap down, to fill the gap to the upside at 153.70. So this potentially could be a nice setup for us, on CVX. And so we'll watch this going into the open tomorrow to see what oil does in the pre-market session. But I have a feeling that we might gap up tomorrow morning based on the news that is out. Right. So let's go back to the daily, not to bias us, and let's take a look here. So this is a true inside bar on XOM. So this is an inside bar setup play. This is an actionable play that I think we could potentially do something with tomorrow, potentially if we gap up and break this, 108.83. You can see we've got 1, 2, tried to gap up, fell back down, 3 rejections here at 108.83. We break this, we've got a chance to move into that 112 level. So now, again, anytime you have an inside bar, what do I like to do on the daily time frame? I just go down a few levels, right? So I'll go down to the hourly. Okay, what are we looking at now? Right, and here we've got pretty clear defined hourly uptrend pattern, right? So here we got 1 tap, push up, pull down, 2 taps. If we break this level, I'm looking for a move, a move into that 112 area on the hourly time frame. But you can see, how basically we stayed within these candles right here. Here's November 2nd. Here's November 3rd. So all of November 3rd is within the range of November 2nd. Now, again, we can go even deeper into this and look at the 15-minute chart and say, okay, but again, it's just going to give us that same pattern. Here's November 2nd and here's November 3rd, with November 3rd being inside the range of November 2nd, right? So XOM, for me, this one is very, very clean because we've got an uptrend and we've got a horizontal key level here that if we break out of, I'd expect us to at least go up to Thursday's high, right, at 109.19, and then a move over that. I'd look for a move up into that 110, potentially into the 112 spot on XOM. So that's what I'm going to be watching on XOM. I think XOM is probably the top setup, top watch for me from an oil perspective if we gap up and if XLE starts to move tomorrow in pre-market and tomorrow during the open. Now, I want to talk about Bitcoin. I haven't looked at Bitcoin this weekend, but let's talk about it because I know we talked about it a lot last week, and I just want to see where we're at on Bitcoin on the daily time frame. So we've tried to break out of the daily a few times here, right? And you can see here, we're, again, another chart that's just kind of trending up on the daily time frame. So if we go down into, let's say, the hourly, what are we looking like on the hourly time, hourly chart here? Well, we're looking like we've got some type of consolidation set up on an hourly time frame, right? And let's go in here, throw this guy up here, right? So we can drag this guy all the way back down here if we want to, but the main thing, to be concerned with here is we've got range expansion and then we've got consolidation. And if we break out to the upside, I'd expect us to go up to that 36K. We break to the downside, probably fall down here to 34K and then potentially even 33K. So no trigger yet on Bitcoin. Sorry, I was taking a drink real quick. We have to wait on the trigger, right? Trigger upside or trigger downside. No clue which way it's going to go yet. Just have to wait and see which way the market takes us, but know that we do have Mara earnings this week, so that could be something to keep in the back of your mind on Bitcoin. But right now, crypto's consolidating. We're sitting kind of right at that 35K mark, and we don't have any direction just yet because on the daily time frame, we've just got a lot of consolidation right up here. Wonder what the weekly looks like. Yeah, weekly strong. Okay, right. So bounce at 15, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. You know, I'd say the same double bottom bounce here, right? But we break out of the weekly, and this is a huge spot on the weekly right here. So we need to get a move up over that 35K because you can see here, last time we came down, we bounced, right? Support, came all the way back up, came down. Now it's resistance. Now we need to see, is it going to be resistance or flip back to support and push all the way back to that 45K level? Right now, no indication of, truly where we're going to, or, what is setting up. So let's take a look at some other tech names, right? Some names that we typically like to trade. And the reason I'm going into tech now is because we just had a lot of the tech earnings fall. So we should see some names now that we can trade that potentially have some type of actionable, setup for us to play here. So let's go into the daily on Snow. Snow's a name that we like to trade, that we traded before. Again, here on Snow, this might have been on the daily. Friday might have been the day to play Snow because we had consolidation. We broke out, but we'll go in here and look and see what do we have. Nothing really. This looks like a name that's probably going to consolidate here on 149 and then go from here. So quickly on Snow, looking at the daily, looking at the hourly, I don't see anything on Snow that is worth, playing from my perspective. NVIDIA looks very extended. So NVIDIA, again, this is a name that doesn't look like there's a lot here for me to chart. On the daily time frame, this is one that I told you guys was an amazing long opportunity when we hammered off of that key level. Last time we came out of this key level, we bounced all the way back up to 438. Right. Last time we came down to this right here, 438, right here, made our way back to 438, right here, 438. We're here again, and now we're back above 438. So history does tend to repeat itself when you're talking about the same buyers and sellers. So keep that in mind, like I always tell you guys. And let's take a look at AMD real quick. We absolutely smashed this AMD trade. You talk about price consolidation leading to range expansion. This is a great example, right? Consolidation right here. Boom. We get a 10% day up on AMD, goes $9. Contracts go almost 1,000% here on the flush. And we continue to move up, on AMD, and that's a clean breakout on AMD over that 111 level. So now, we've got 116 as the next level up, potentially moving back into that 119, 124 area on AMD, looking pretty decent on AMD here. But again, super extended on the daily time frame. We don't have a lot of consolidation. And while I don't like to trade consolidation, I like to see consolidation on a chart because that gives me good indication that we are going to see some type of breakout that we can trade, right? I like seeing patterns like this here because I want to be able to catch this candle here and catch that move where we have a 10% day on AMD. So let's look at Tesla. What do we got on Tesla? Not a good looking candle on Tesla, right? Let's turn off these levels so you guys can see kind of unbiased what we have on Tesla here. Not a good looking candle on Tesla. 226, we could call this a level here. If we put a level right here at 225, 226, one rejection, two rejection, right? But we just have, a lot of consolidation. If we go into the hourly time frame, again, not a lot going on here on Tesla from an hourly time frame perspective. What I will say is that if we break out over this spot, I think if we can break that 226.48, which is Friday's high, is that what it is? Sorry, 226.37. We break that level, I think we've got a chance to come up into the 230.70 range. And if we break 230.70, I think we've got a chance to come up into that 235 range. So that's kind of what I'm thinking on Tesla here. Very extended on the tech sector, but Tesla looks like it hasn't extended too terribly much based on where we dropped to on the earnings report. So this is a name this week that potentially has the opportunity to make that post earnings gap up back into the 240 range, right? Because if we can break up through here, we don't have a lot of resistance until we go up into this 240. What's up, CDP? Hope you have a great week as well, man. So this is the gap here that I'm looking at now. If we turn our levels back on, there's gonna be a lot of levels here to play to the upside. So let's go down to the hourly. Let's go into the 15-minute. Actually, it might be a little cleaner for you guys. Turn extended on. There we go. Right. So we've got levels here. If we can break this high of day here, 229, 234, 238 is kind of the area that I'm looking at here. And this, once we break this, we're essentially in the gap. If we go back this way, yeah, here we go. Here's the post earnings gap right here, 230.62. That was the big wick we had up here, and then we just fell all the way down from earnings. And we've got that, potentially we've got that room to go back up into that 240, 242 area, on Tesla. So that's what I'd be looking at on Tesla. Now, another name that has interesting to me is Microsoft. Let's talk about this guy real quick. Here we go. So Microsoft broke out on Friday over a really, really big key level. We've got a chance to go up here into this 366 level. Now, admittedly, I don't have a lot of levels up here, so I'll have to go turn on my hourly time frame and just go back here, and I'll show you guys how I'm going to add levels here, right? Because I don't have anything up here. When we don't have any levels to trade off of, you just want to look left on the chart and see last time we were there, how did we react, around those levels. So on the hourly time frame, just going to go back. Okay, here we go. So now what I want to see is, okay, where did we, how did we react on these levels here, right? So you guys know I like to look at candle closes, and here this is the news that this was the day that Swaggy called out that news trade on Microsoft when it absolutely ripped, went like 1,800%. If you guys remember that, that was crazy. I hesitated, I didn't get it, and kicked myself for not getting that. But 363 area, right? 363.40, 363.50, somewhere in here. Key spot on the hourly time frame. Why? Because we went right from here right to that level. That's where we showed resistance. Tried to push up even higher. They pulled us back down underneath of it. Tried to push up again. Pulled us back down underneath of it. Tried to push up again. Pulled us back down underneath of it. So 366.43 is a huge key level for me to the upside. And then when it comes to to downside levels underneath of that, this is where a little bit of art comes into play on some of these levels, because it's hard to really tell where these levels are going to be at. So what I'm going to do is put one right here, right? We fell down on the hourly time frame. We held it here. We rejected here. We rejected here. We rejected here. So I like this 355 level on that perspective. Now, if I go into the 15-minute and go all the way back to July. Bear with me for a second. July 18. Here we go. All right, let's see what the 15-minute looks like. Okay, so I like that 15-minute, right? We marked the hourly there, and that makes a lot of sense. This 15-minute candle came right up to that 355 level. We pulled down. This candle went all the way back up, and then it just, kept going all the way up here. I like the 15-minute here, because obviously we've got fall down to it. We reject it once. We reject it twice. We reject it 3 times and 4 times. Then we fall down. Now, the other level that I might want to add here is probably in this zone right here. Okay, so 356.59. Not a huge level, and maybe even we pulled this up just a little bit somewhere in there, almost 357. And why is that, right? Well, when we got over 355, we went up to 357. We pulled back down, right? And then we pushed back through it. So we know that this is an area that there is typically a struggle between buyers and sellers. The next day, what happens? We open up, we sell right down to this level. We hold it once, we hold it twice, we bounce back up. We pull back down, we lose it, and then we fall down, right? And then the very next day, we try to push up again, 350, what was the high here? 357.21. We reject the 356.86, then we fall back down to every single level. So now, if I go out to the daily time frame and scroll all the way back over here, I hate how Webull does this. I wish I could just put in a, a date that I want to look at, and it would just give me that date, but that would be too hard of them to do. Here we go. So now that we're on the daily time frame, right now we've got levels to play to the upside here, right? So on Microsoft, we have actionable levels to play, but again, this is a name that is super extended, right? Very, very extended on the, the 4-bar up play here that we had this week. Just like we saw on every other name, this week, we had huge, moves to the upside. So this is one that, again, a little bit of hesitation, especially because we do see some volume declining on this move up. We'll have to see ultimately what happens with price action, this week before we actually go into the week with the bias of, hey, we're just going to keep going straight up, or hey, lowering volume, we're gapping up, we're definitely going to gap down on this name. I'm not going to go into the week that way. So I'll just continue to look at different names, right? So let's look at a name like Airbnb. Growth name, right? Had earnings. Earnings are out of the way. Again, we've got a little bit of consolidation here. So let me just go into the hourly time frame. Interesting, right? This is an interesting one right here because what do we see on the hourly? This is a bull flag pattern. Okay. So the potential, right, for a breakout on Airbnb here. I don't know what pre-market's going to lend its hand to, but right, you can see we probably should be adding a level right here as well on the hourly time frame, right? But you see here we have 1 rejection, 2 rejection, 3 rejection. We get over 123, probably make a move up into 125, 127. So Airbnb is one that I will be watching going into tomorrow based on consolidation that we had. Because if we continue to consolidate in pre-market, let's say we consolidate all, we take this pattern all the way out here and then we break at open and then we break out over 124, we could see a big move into that 123, we could see a big move to that 125 area. So bull flag on Airbnb on the hourly time frame, something to potentially look at. So now I just kind of spitball some names and just see what do we have on different time frames for these names. Where are we at on patterns? Again, Google Tech doesn't, to me this week. Tech just looks like like I don't have a lot of confidence and confidence really on where tech's going to go until it actually goes. So for that reason, I'm going to stay away from big blue chip tech names, but Meta might be, yeah, this is a good one. So Meta's one that we've talked about for a while. Kind of seems like it's being held down. It's an interesting name to be looking at right now. Because we seemingly can't break out of this 315 area. We broke out of it, at open, we gapped up, pushed up, and then we fell right back down through 315. So ideally we'd like to see an hourly candle close, even a 30-minute candle close over 315 for a move back up into that 318 area. Yeah, we just we're super extended again on a lot of these names, but this name in particular is not as far extended as some of those other names, which has me a little excited for the potential of this name, for the potential of the breakout here. If I get rid of these guys, actually, let's do this. Let's use this guy. I like to use color. Yeah, that's actually more accurate. So on the hourly time frame, you guys can see here, right? 1 tap, 2 tap, 3 tap, 4 tap, right? We're riding this trend all the way up. And so assuming we, keep riding this trend up, where could we head to potentially? Well, do we have some type of, no, I don't think so. I think that's not a great trend line, because we've got 1 tap here, 2 tap there, but all of this is just kind of noise. So I don't like that. But what we can trade to is we can have levels, right? We could say, hey, we've got a level here at 317. We got a level up here at 324, and then we've got 329. I kind of do like that. So if I put these guys here, that guy there, this guy here. All right, these are levels that I'd be looking for Meta to go to. We break 315, we got a chance to get 319. Break 319, we got a chance to get 324. Just based on what's happened historically, right? Historically, We break 315, we go to 319. We break 319, we go to 324. We break 324, we go up here to 329, right? So same thing, what I'm looking to happen here, right? We just pushed up, and this is where we went to 330. So meta to 330 potentially could be a great target this week coming into the week, depending on how QQQ performs, and obviously some of these other earnings names that are out. We'll have to see what the VIX does as well. But this is a name that I kind of do like this setup. Looking at it here, just seeing how we're riding this trend up. Now, if we break this trend on the hourly, specifically if it's right here around 315, then we know that we've got a lot of room down to 305. We got about a $10 move down on Meta. And this is why I say sometimes it's better to zoom out. We talk about Meta on Friday. One of the things that I said is, hey, if we can break this low day, we got a chance to go down to that 310 area. What I wasn't looking at, which I probably should have been, is this hourly time frame, right? You can see the hourly. If we break the hourly time frame, then I would look to get shorted Meta on the on the 5-minute chart. But right now, if we're riding this trend line, let's just continue to ride it all the way up to the top. So let's look at Apple. MJ wants to look at Apple. Let's see what we have here. So Apple just had earnings. Let me clean my chart a little bit. This one could be interesting. I've got a lot of different patterns here on Apple. I just want to see, does this... Oh, yeah. For sure. All right, so Apple here, guys. Hopefully you guys can see that. Let me take this. Oh, I have 2 of these levels here. Turn that guy back to normal. Turn this guy back to normal. I'll color. Some people color their levels based on time frame. Mine aren't. I'll just color levels when I think they're important levels. But we've got a major daily spot here on Apple, right? This is going to be a big week. What does the weekly look like? Big week as well, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially a big bull flag on the weekly with some increased volume. But yeah, Apple's interesting here. We got room to 180 if we can break this spot. I think we can make that move back to that 182 spot, break 182. We've got a big gap to fill to 187. So this could be a huge week on Apple to the upside. Huge here, right? Like downside, we've got levels to play, but upside, big gap here on the on a daily perspective. But yeah, this is an interesting spot on the daily time frame. I mean, we could look at, like, we could say something similar here as well on downside setup on Apple. When we look at how many we got 1, 2, 3 taps here. But it's not symmetrical, and that kind of looks like it just looks like we're trying to make a trend line that isn't there be there. So for me, I don't really like that line there, but this is one of the cleanest technical setups I think on the market right now. Based on this daily, 1, 2, 3, 4 taps on this trend line, we break this. Apple's got a chance to carry the market, to the upside, even though we are super extended, but we also have some consolidation here. So this might be an interesting play early on in the week, guys, because if we break Thursday's high, which is 177.78, could be a huge move, right? And I've got a level at 178.38. So essentially what we could be looking for here is a break over this area, right? So if we go to the 15-minute, turn on our extended, right? We could just be looking at this and say, okay, if we break this area on Apple, right, then I'm looking for a move up into that 180, 181, 182, et cetera, and then above that 187. So that's what I'm going to be watching on Apple for sure, to see if we can break out over this hourly trend. But nice trend up, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs on Friday. Same thing here, right? Higher highs, higher lows, almost made a higher high and then finally did an after hours and then dropped all the way back down. But really nice recovery. Whoever bought Apple down at 169, it ended up hitting 160 or 177 up here. So 177.50, huge spot here if we can get over this. But you guys can see how that pocket was kind of, rejected, right? Pushed up, rejected on that daily trend line and that supply zone area. They sold it from there. Again, rejection. They sold it from the daily trend line and the supply zone. And then earnings, obviously, algos went crazy. But again, here and in the after hour session, they pushed back up, tried to push over that daily trend line, and then pulled right back down from that supply zone. So this zone right here is going to be huge. If we can get over this zone, I think Apple's got the potential to go get 180, potentially, 182 this week with the stretch target of 187 by the end of the week. So that's what I'm going to be watching on Apple. Very, very clean setup. Appreciate MJ for sharing that with all of us. But that one is probably one of the cleanest setups from the daily time frame that I see. That I have seen at least. Any other chart requests you guys want to look at? Not a very big week of like a ton of names speaking to me to say like, hey, we've got a ton of consolidation setups here that, make a lot of sense. Even Boeing is like, Boeing is actually recovering, but is this a double top on Boeing on the, 196.77 level? We rejected here and fell down to 176. Do we reject here again, fall down to 176? Going to be interesting. Man, I can't believe how much they've killed that Boeing chart just from that consolidation setup there. Typically I'm buying weekly contracts or 0-day contracts if we're trading IWM, QQQ, or SPY. Let's look at IWM while we're talking about it. Yeah, see another just nasty. I mean, good looking chart for buyers, but just nasty from our perspective as options traders because it's like this reminds me of like the gap ups remind me of like BABA, right? Where we just have these gaps all over the place. It's just not fun to to trade gap ups unless you're in calls and you're swinging them. So let's see here what IWM looks like. So the daily, obviously, we've got gap ups here. We got a key level at 175.63. Let's look at the hourly time frame. What do we got here? Super extended again on the hourly. Do a little bit of consolidation here on the hourly. Obviously we got a little pattern like this going on. I have to see what happens, but could potentially break out and get something else. But at some point, I think we're going to have to consolidate, during regular market hours. CDP, yeah, tomorrow we fall back on the time, right? I think, but it's already changed. Yeah, over here in the States on the East Coast, we've already changed. So it's 9:39 right now. Typically, it is I guess it was 8:39 yesterday this same time. So we're an hour ahead now. Yeah. So IWM I don't know if that's Mel or not, but on IWM, we're I think this is a key for us. If we break 175.63, I think we've got room to get 179. I just don't know if we're going to break it or not. Keep in mind here though that last time this might actually be a better level to put because if I look at the hourly, last time we broke, right, we kind of rejected up in this 177 area. Well, last time we broke, we pushed here to 176.44, but before that it was 177, big rejection there, and then fall back down. So not sure what we're going to see there, but yeah, very, very extended chart. Let's look at Disney because I see some people talking about Disney, maybe some weekly consolidation. The only reason I didn't show Disney is because they have earnings on Wednesday, so I probably am not going to play contracts that are have juiced implied volatility. Not something that I want to be trading. What's the weekly look like? Yeah, trend line just staying. We can adjust it a little bit. We could probably adjust it to here if we wanted to. Oops, that's a key level. Well, that key level is gone. But here we can make something like this on Disney. daily time frame, we can look at the weekly, but daily's probably a little bit more potent to us. Meaning there's more action on the daily that we could probably trade if we're trading weekly options contracts. So on the daily time frame, right, this is essentially what we have. And actually, let me just put a level down here instead of right. But yeah, if we break out of this, we got room back into that 89.57 area and then 91.24. But again, earnings are on the 8th. They're on Wednesday. And so I probably won't trade Disney contracts this week, but growth names are, Disney's not a growth name, but growth names hit last week. High tech names hit last week. I'm not sure what Disney's earnings are going to look like, especially when it comes to their streaming. That's probably going to be a big thing, streaming and guidance. But with everyone cutting cable, Disney owns ESPN. You have to think that ESPN's losing money, hand over fist because everyone's cutting their cable bill. They're gonna have to start charging more for their streaming. But yeah, Disney definitely consolidation. Good to recognize that. I drag this. Yeah, it stays here. Definitely consolidation, but I just don't know that we're gonna see any big move on options contracts with earnings, this week. Kathleen, I usually mark them without if I'm looking at larger time frames. So obviously daily, there's no extended hours. Hourly, typically I'll go no extended hours and I'll mark my levels because those are the real levels that I want to be paying attention to. If I go into the 15-minute, I'll probably turn them on because I just want to see how did we react, in the after hour session and the pre-market session. But I'm not going to necessarily mark that as a key level unless it's a level during the day. Like this technically could be considered a good key level on Disney right here at 85, basically like the 85 level, because we've got a rejection 1, 2. Let me zoom in here so you can see it. Right on the 85, we've got 1, 2, 3 rejections on 85. So resistance, breakout above it, holds a support, pushes higher, comes back down, holds a support once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times here. So on the smaller time frames, 5 and 15, then maybe I will look at turning the extended on. But when I go out to the hourly, it's just more noise in my opinion, and I like less noise as a trader. I want to be as simple as I can, so I'll go no extended hours on. Let's see, is there anything else out here? Qualcomm, really nice breakout. Just thinking of some other names that we played. This is where I'll just go down like a rabbit hole kind of and just be like, okay, what are some of the other names that we played recently? XPEV, we know Lee has earnings this week. So what's XPEV look like going into the week? Hard to look at these China names, but if XPEV can break 1756, I think we make that move up to 20. We make the move over 20. We've got 2150. So if Lee has an earnings run up, which they report Thursday morning, we could trade XPEV to the upside. That could be a potential option there. What are some other names that we have that we've traded? What do the airlines look like? Starting to round on the bottom on United. Is Southwest doing the same thing? Yeah, rounded right there off that key level. So I'm assuming American's going to look the same, where we have like a rounded, rounded here as well. I would assume that JetBlue would look the same. Not as much of a rounded, but it did round a little bit there. So what does Jets look like? Yeah, Jets is rounded as well. So everything looks like it kind of, rounded, and everything kind of skipped on the daily. We talked about Jets, we talked about NASDAQ, we talked about just SPY. A lot of names look like they are definitely extended. I just don't know where we're going to go. So for me, going into the week, that's key, right? That's like paramount for me. What about PayPal? Yeah, see PayPal skipped. SQ, I think this one skipped as well. Yeah, SQ skipped up. So there's just there's not a lot of, I don't have a lot of direction in the market right now. A lot of things gapped up last week. And so if we gap up again tomorrow, then let's buy calls and do the same thing that we did last week. But I think going into the week, what we're going to have to look for is names that have smooth consolidation. This is one that I think hasn't broken out yet that I was looking at Friday. Yeah, CRM. Here's one that I think is going to be a nice trade for us when this thing breaks out over 210 finally. 209. Oops, didn't mean to delete that level. 209. We just call it 210. How about that? When we break 210, that's going to be a pretty nice trade, right? Rejection, 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 rejection. Break 210. I think we can get 211.95 over that. Then I think we've got room to 218.62. So CRM is an interesting one that that I'll be watching for a breakout over 210. We can turn this guy back to normal color as well. But yeah, guys, that's kind of all I have for you this evening. As we came into it, I was one of the things that I was coming into the week, I was like, I don't want to look at a bunch of charts over the weekend until Sunday. I want to take everyone through again how I kind of look at charts. But unfortunately, looking at a lot of these names, I think that's why there's a lot of people on social media that are kind of quiet with setups this week, because in my mind, as a trader, I don't know that there's a lot of setups that I could say are actionable right now. I think once we get into the week and we get some trends, we get some volatility and some momentum, then I think we'll see some potential setups out there that really do set up for us. But right now, you guys asked on a lot, but I think the best chart right now that we looked at all evening is Apple on the daily from a technical perspective setup, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 taps on this trend line. If we break out of it, we've got levels to play to the upside. If we stay in trend and we break down, we've got levels to play to the downside as well. But we are seeing increasing buy volume here with the potential for a breakout over that 179 area, 178 area, and that's a supply zone. We break out of that, I think we've got a chance to do exactly what we did before, where we go up here and we grab that 181, 182 area. And then here, the stretch target, if we break 182, then move up into that 190 area potentially in a very, short amount of days. Right here, this is 5 days. We go all the way from 179.50 to 190 in 5 days. If we do that this week, that's potential for a, over $10 move basically on Apple in 5 days. So that's all the charts I got for you guys this evening. Again, nothing too crazy. I don't have this is my top setup for the week. This is the sector that I think is going to go, because frankly, I'm not sure what sector is going to go this week. Everything went last week. Could be oil, could be tech, could be neither of them, right? But, what I'm curious to see is from an earnings perspective are a lot of these names that are growth names going to be strong going into the week, just like they were last week on, all of those growth names that had, massive earnings reports. So yeah, we'll see what happens. That is, I think that's all I got for you guys. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Someone asked about the course. The course is done. The landing page is being built as we speak. I thought it was going to be done this week. It's not done yet. It is going to be done very, very soon for you guys, aiming to have everything out. And there's a few things that we're working on from a product ascension ladder that I think you guys will really like. But the course is it's coming. So if there's no other chart requests, we can call it a night. And excited for the rest of this week, guys. I think we're one more week with the 2K. I've decided we'll do the 2K account one more week, just to see where we end up with it this week. We kind of caught a groove, caught a stride last week with the 2K account, and this will be the last week. Well, once we do this week, it'll be a full month trading the 2K account. So the goal is to potentially double that account in 1 month and show you guys that doubling an account is definitely doable. But more importantly, sustaining growth with proper risk management, proper sizing, proper strategy, all of those things, all of that is definitely doable. There's a lot of people that say it's hard to grow a small account. I'm here to tell you that, yes, it is hard, but it is not impossible to do that. Everyone short Beyond Meat. Let me look real quick at Beyond. Sometimes the spreads on Beyond are kind of terrible. Yeah, Beyond's Interesting name. This is one that I actually said once we get down under 21, this thing's gonna fall pretty hard. And boy, did it ever. Um, Fell below 21, rejected 21, came back down, right? We're just 558. At some point, I wonder if they file bankruptcy or get purchased by like Tyson's Food or something like that for pennies on the dollar. But man, talk about a stock that has fallen $239 down to $5. I think UPST is another one. 401. Now we're at 30. So interesting. But all right, guys. Well, appreciate you guys being on this evening. Looking forward to tomorrow. Looking forward to keep growing the account. I think we're going to be able to potentially double the 2K account, within whatever it is, 18 days or something like that. And so if we can double a 2K account in 18 days, you can do the same thing with a 5, 10, 15, 20, 30K account using the exact same principles that, that we teach every single day over in Alpine. So sorry for the, not necessarily a big value stacked Sunday scan, but I think there's just not a lot in terms of market setup. So maybe what we'll do is do a midweek kind of check-in instead of a midweek review, like a midweek check-in on where the market's at and see if there's any setups that kind of start to percolate and set themselves up tomorrow and Tuesday that we can take advantage of on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday outside of the flush names. So appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you guys in the morning. I'll have the watch list out in the morning. Hopefully we get some pre-market movers that kind of give us some opportunity. Looking forward to it. Let's start tomorrow and this week off with with the bang, and let's get after it. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Appreciate it.